Okay. All right. So for those of you that have been hanging out watching us figure out how we're going to do this, thank you and welcome. Welcome to Anderson's Bookshop's virtual event with Terri Libenson and Lily LaMotte. I am Carrie. I'm a member of the Anderson's events team, and the Anderson's family, of course, has been selling books independently in the Chicago suburbs since 1875. So on behalf of them all, I just want to take a second to welcome you guys tonight. Thank you for being here. We have been through a lot of things as a company in all these years. The Great Depression, the Spanish flu pandemic. We always joke that we made it through disco, which was an awful time. But this year has really been a challenge like no small business has ever seen before. And we are really hurting. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. So for that reason, we are incredibly grateful for your support of our virtual events program, for being here at all tonight. And of course, if you decide to purchase the books tonight, if you purchase those through Anderson's, we would greatly appreciate that. Couple of things about how tonight's going to work. Cameras and microphones for all attendees will stay off. We are in a webinar format tonight, so the authors will be in discussion. I will be asking them some questions, and then you guys can participate by putting questions you might have through the chat. And that way I'm able to then feed those questions to the authors for you. And let's see, I'll also try to be putting some links in the chat to how you can get to our website to order the books as well, if you're interested. But okay, now let's get to the good stuff. Terri Libenson is the best-selling author, of course, of Invisible Emmy and Positively Izzy. She is also the Reuben Award-winning cartoonist of the internationally syndicated comic strip, The Pajama Diaries, and was a writer of humorous cards for American Greetings. I love that. Lily LaMotte graduated from Hamline's Writing for Children and Young Adults program with an MFA, and tonight you will be introduced to her debut graphic novel, Measuring Up, which I happen to have 2 middle grade readers and they loved it. So I can't think of a higher place to start here. All right, I'm going to have each of you ladies go ahead and describe to me a little bit about your book that you're here to promote tonight. So I'll have Terri go first.
Hi. Okay. Well, I'm thinking I'm promoting my book, Becoming Brianna. Is that the one? Okay.
Plus the box set and the journal.
Plus the box set. I don't have a sample, but I do have my journal, which was the most fun I think I've ever had in my life creating it. Cool. Oh my gosh, yeah, it took me back to being 10 years old again. It was great. But I'll go back to Brianna. This was actually my favorite book to write. Well, maybe not. I don't know. My 5th one turned out to be, which I just finished writing. It turned out to be a beast, but in the end, I had a lot of fun with that one too. But anyway, Brianna is it's a little bit different from my other books. It takes place in the same universe, Lakefront Middle School. But this time it's a little more niche. It involves the character Brianna going through the process of having a bat mitzvah. So it was great. It brought back a lot of memories for me and my daughters, and some we tried to block out but got through anyway. And the book is told, I should probably mention, I can probably pull up a little sample. It's partly told like an illustrated novel format like that, and partly, if I could find a sample, graphic novel. So it's divided between Brianna from the past and Brianna from the present. So the present day takes place on the day of her bat mitzvah, and the past takes place the 8 months leading up to the event. And it's got a lot of humor, a lot of heart, and a lot of challenges for Brianna and a lot of drama as usual. So that is it.
Okay, that's great. How about you, Lily? You want to tell us a little bit about Measuring Up?
Sure. And first of all, I want to say it's so cool that you have so many books you aren't sure which one you're promoting today. Someday.
Of promoting the wrong book at an event, so this time I needed to ask the question. It's just because of COVID, because everything, some events were rescheduled. So
Oh.
I'm doing some from last year. But anyway, go on.
So this is Measuring Up, which is my debut middle grade graphic novel. And before we start, I want to say what a beautiful job my publisher did with this, because it's gorgeous. The front is gorgeous. And then the back, and look, they did the whole glossy thing. And then if you open it up, dust cover, they have the inside too. Oh, I want it to be like Vanna White or something. So my protagonist, Cece, basically moves to the US from Taiwan, and she has this very warm, close relationship with Ama, who's basically means grandmother. And so she really misses her grandmother when she moves here, and her grandmother's 70th birthday is coming up, which is a very big deal. And so in order to get the money to fly her grandmother over, Cece enters a kids cooking contest. And so there is a lot of cooking in here. I've heard from readers that when they read it, they get very hungry. So just be prepared for that. And it's about family, friendship, culture, and food, and how we're all connected, even though we can all be very different. We can all be from different cultures, but food connects all of us together. So I was really interested by your book, where you had the past and the present and doing it in different formats, with like part of it as a graphic novel, straight graphic novel, and part of it as a hybrid. And that is like, I haven't heard of it, but I was just like, wow, what a cool idea. That is just so brilliant. So can you tell me like was it hard to work on the two different parts?
Oh, well, thanks for asking that. Actually, it was not my brilliant idea. It was my literary agent's brilliant idea. So I will give him full credit.
Well, that's what agents are for, right? To help us with our books.
Absolutely. No, I thought it was brilliant as well. Originally, it was going to be just sort of like the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, kind of in that vein, where it's more of an illustrated novel. So he gave me more work, actually, but but I'm glad he did. For me, it's a lot of work, but it is it breaks it up a bit, which is kind of nice. It keeps it from getting too monotonous when I'm doing all the art. So and I've really come to love doing the graphic novel portion very much. So it's all good. Yeah. And I have to say, I just read your book. HarperCollins was nice enough to send me a PDF of it, and it was great. I loved it, and I was very, very hungry.
Yeah. My kids said the same thing. I was wondering if you both could maybe talk a little bit more about that graphic element and what makes creating a graphic novel a little different than a regular novel, besides just the pictures, like the challenges that you face with that and the process, really, because I find the process of graphic novels actually fascinating. So
we can have different processes, because I am not an illustrator. So I don't know, Terri, do you want to talk about your process, since you do both? And then I can jump in with mine.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I'm really curious about yours because I'm so intimate with both the writing and the art, and to me they're so connected. So I'm really curious how you worked with the artists. For me, it's just sort of a natural way for me to write. I mean, I was a cartoonist for 14 years. I wrote a comic strip for 14 years, and actually even more than that, because I had other comic strips, but this was the one that kind of made it. But I've always written that way. I've always meshed both the art and the writing. It just kind of connects with me. And I've always done that since I was little. I've always written comics, even growing up. So to me, it's probably easier for me to create a graphic novel than it is to create a regular novel. Although I love that process too. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like doing this hybrid, because I've really come to love just going into more detail and depth in more of the illustrated novel portion, where there's a lot more text. So it is a great balance of both. I can get a little artsier with one section, and I can get more texty with the other, and let my imagination roll. I'm trying to think technically. You want to know technically like how I created? I use a digital drawing tablet called a Cintiq, and everything is done digitally, and it makes it a lot easier and quicker for me. And I actually work really well. I've never looked back. I started creating my comic strip on it back in 2013, and so it's just really natural for me now. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, I do roughs first. I draw everything out in pencil, then I scan it in, then I kind of plug all the illustrations into my manuscript, and then I do the finished art after that. So that's it in a nutshell.
I used to be at one point I was very ambitious, and I thought I wanted to learn how to draw. So I actually was part of an illustration critique group, and it's interesting because they did all come from just like regular media, and then we all switched to Procreate, and they actually did all their roughs on Procreate and then moved it over to like Photoshop or something. But yeah. No, I was gonna say Procreate's like so fun to play with.
Yeah, I haven't tried Procreate. I'm just kind of stuck at my desk where I have all this antiquated stuff, but I think even my digital drawing tablet is now like pretty ancient.
See, now it's time to buy the Procreate, right? The iPad, the Procreate, and then it frees you to go outside and sit in your yard when the sun is shining.
Right. I do have a travel version, so I do that. But honestly, like I really love doing everything in pencil first. I guess it's like the old purist in me, which it's kind of unexpected, but because I love working digitally. But yeah, with the initial roughs, I don't know. I think it just gives me more immediacy, so it's just easier for me that way. It makes things harder when I have to scan,
Yeah.
300 pages of illustrations in.
It could be the difference between someone who's very accomplished artistically and someone who's still trying to learn how to draw, because the Procreate lets me erase immediately.
Go with that.
Yeah. But I love comics as a kid. When we used to get the newspaper every Sunday, that was like the first thing I always read was the comic strips. So I say, yay, comic strips, right? In a way, they made both of us writers, and you illustrator and writer.
I feel like that's something kids these days like really miss out on, like the whole Sunday paper and the comics and.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, and so that's why I think graphic novels are wonderful, because it's such a great extension of that for kids, especially. It's almost like a more in-depth comic strip, So I wish they had them when I was growing up.
No. Well, so that's actually a topic I kind of wanted to touch on with you guys. We still see, and it's less now because I feel like graphic novels have really had this just emergence over the last 2 years, and it's phenomenal, and they are getting so good, and the content is so great in them. But we still do get a lot of parents who come into the bookstore, and when you take them over to the graphic novel section, because they'll say, oh, I have a middle grade student, and do you recommend anything to read? And we recommend a graphic novel. It's always the same thing. Well, no, I want a real book, And it kills me. And I'm always like, no, I have middle grade children too. Like these are fantastic books, and it doesn't matter. And so I guess I'm wondering, like I said, I do think it's getting better. I do think parents are starting to open up a little bit more to the fact that these aren't just like pulp comics, that these are like real literature and amazing stories being told through this format, and that kids are just devouring them. But are you guys running into that? And what is your answer to that?
So my answer is, well, I grew up reading comic strips and comic magazines, Mad Magazine, anything I could steal out of my brother's room, basically. He was a lot older than me, so I got him young. But, and it actually, I think, was a gateway to so many other kinds of books. I'm a huge reader of everything, and I still read comics and graphic novels. I read adult graphic novels, I read kid graphic novels, and I read every other genre under the sun. I think you're right. I think graphic novels have come a long way, and the content is incredible now. The subject matter is incredible. And they've gotten really diverse too, which is wonderful. I think I could speak for both of us, Lily, in that respect, and beyond us. And and not just that, but just the visuals combined with the images. I mean, there's a lot of storytelling to be said just within the images themselves. I mean, they can be their own story just with an expression or the way you create a panel, anything, just the artistry of it in and of itself. So that combined with the literary aspect, I think makes for an incredible story. So, okay, I've rambled. So
That's great. I just want to let you guys know I have to go tell my son next door to be quiet. So I'm going to do that while you guys answer the question real quick. I'm very sorry.
I was going to say that I would tell the parents that, graphic novels are actually getting awards, like literary awards, right? So I have so for example, right, we have Jin Yang's American-Born Chinese,
right,
and right there's a sticker.
Right, sorry about that.
It's a nice sticker.
No, I was just explaining that what I would say is that graphic novels are winning literary awards.
Yeah.
Yes. And for example, American-Born Chinese, you can stick a sticker right there, right? It's very legit. Classic. And then New Kid, London Newberry, the very first, right, to win. I mean, before that, we also have Victoria Jameson, which I have also back there. And speaking of Jean, I mean, Jean was the Library of Congress Young People's ambassador of young people's literature. And so, you don't just give anybody that role.
This is what we tell our customers when they come in, and we do a mock Newbery list every year at Anderson's, going on, gosh, I don't know, a few decades now that we've been doing it. And we've gotten pretty good at it. I don't want to pat my own back here, but we have a really good track record of picking the books that end up making the list. And this year we have several graphic novels, and we did have New Kid last year on our list. So yeah, I mean, it's just like this frustrating mindset that we find a lot of our parents in, that, no, I want my kids to be reading this literature. And we're like, no, this is literature, like really good literature and stuff that kids can just really relate to. So I don't know. I just was wondering if you guys are still coming across that. And like I said, I do feel like it's getting better. I feel like parents are coming around to the whole idea that a graphic novel is a novel and has a lot of really important stuff to say to kids. And I also it's always thrilling to see a reluctant reader pick up a graphic novel and finish it and feel like they really accomplished something that they weren't able to do before, which I think is just the magic of this format. So let's see, we do have a question from our audience. So I'll go ahead, and this is for Terri. Terri, what was your favorite book to write? And this is from Aubrey. She's 10 years old.
Hi, Aubrey. I get asked this a lot. Actually, I usually get asked what's my favorite book, and I always say that I can't choose among them because it's like choosing among your own children. But I do answer which one is my favorite book to write. And I think I touched upon it before. I'm not just saying it because I'm kind of promoting it right now, but I really did enjoy writing Brianna. It really wrote itself. And I think it's followed closely by Just Jamie, which was my third book in the series. And I think it has to do with the fact that they were both based loosely off of just real incidents that have happened in my life or my kids' lives. Just Jamie was actually loosely based on something that happened to my older daughter back when she was in 8th grade, where it was awful. She was basically dumped through a group text message by her group of friends, her best friends. It was brutal. And she's fine now. She's in college. Everything's cool. she's a great group of friends now. She came out unscathed, and actually it was wonderful because right after that incident happened, it was really rough. But then her old group of friends from elementary school kind of took her back under their wing, and everything was cool after that. But you find out who your real friends are.
Yeah.
Anyway, it made me realize how universal that incident was, how it's so easy to get excluded in middle school. And so I wanted to draw upon that. And then with becoming Brianna, I had a bat mitzvah, so did both of my daughters. My husband had a bar mitzvah, and so, there's a lot of fun and crazy and, and a lot of growth during that whole process as well. So just 2 books that really wrote themselves, I'd say. So definitely my favorites.
All right. Well, thanks. If you guys out there and any of our attendees have more questions that you would like to submit through, I can be feeding them to the authors and asking as we go along, just so you guys don't be shy or don't hold them all to the end. Go ahead and put them through. All right, so we've talked about the process. We've talked about the emergence of graphic novels over the last couple years. Let me ask you guys, what is your favorite middle grade novel that you have read recently and why? Lily, I'll have you go first. Sorry, I always put people on the spot when I do that.
Well, actually, I've been very busy during COVID because I had to write a whole book. I was basically heads down writing my second book, and so I didn't have much time for reading during this time period. However, I did get a big stack, and I just had my book launch on Tuesday, and so I'm taking all day tomorrow to read. I'll show you my stack though, because I would love to show this stack.
Show us your stack. Who doesn't love a good TBR stack?
Oh. Yeah, I hear that.
Working in a bookstore, they just always give you the free one. I mean, like it's like this tall.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay.
Wow.
So I got A Cat Story by
I love
Marie
those.
Husted.
Wow.
And this one, Lupe Wong Won't Dance. This is a prose novel, and she just had her debut book too. Fantastic. And this one, Night Lights.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to read that.
Beautiful.
It looks so pretty, doesn't it?
Yeah, that looks so
That illustration's gorgeous. And I want to write a early reader type graphic novel. So I got a bunch of these.
Yeah.
I love the humor of these type of things, right? And this one is another one. And then there's Lightfall.
That was a great one.
Looks like very fun. Oh, and I'm gonna read Pashmina.
Another really good one.
And Joe.
Oh,
The retelling.
Yeah, my daughter just finished that.
Yeah. Read that.
The Little Women retelling. It's great.
Exactly. And then of course I had to read Jerry Craft, right?
Yes. Another
new book. Yes. Or two
right.
more. Oh wait, hold on, one more. Sorry.
No.
Oh, and then of course Jean Yang's new Superman Smashes the Klan.
Wow.
So he won the Harvey Award for this. So he this year he didn't just win one Harvey Award, he won 2 Harvey Awards. So I have to finish reading this. I didn't finish reading yet. But this is actually an arc because I went to visit my editor at the HarperCollins office, and their new editorial director had just come from First Second, and he had Jean's arc, so he gave it to me. I was like, oh, yay!
I love arcs. Arcs are the best.
Yeah.
Okay, Terri, how about you? You have any suggestions for things you've read lately in the middle grade world that you would suggest to our attendees? I think we have some educators and some children in our attendees tonight.
Oh boy. Okay, I've read way too many graphic novels in the last 4 years. The truth is, I don't really have a favorite. I think there's so many great ones. I've actually read a few adult ones lately, but I'm trying to think of the last graphic novel, kids graphic novel that I've read. Oh, it might be yours, Lily. Yours. I just finished reading it and I loved it. Oh my gosh, I get a lot of blurb requests, so everything kind of gets a little mushed in my head. I do want to read Jerry's new book, Class Act.
It's great. Yeah.
I loved his first one. And I think I might have to open my closet door and see what I have there. I've got my own stack over there. I've been touting a book that I've loved. It's not a graphic novel, but it's a great middle grade illustrated novel. And that's Wink by Rob Harrell. Let me open my door and see what I've got over there. I didn't think I'd have to get up. Don't look at my ugly sweatpants, but.
Oh, that's why I covered my camera before I stood up to go yell at my son next door. All the working from home, I know everyone can feel us on this. It's definitely not without its challenges. Yeah, we have launched this virtual landscape and we, built it from the ground up, really virtual events. I mean, no one.
Yeah, I've got
Oh, good. You're back. What have you got?
Oh, she's got a big stack too.
A big old stack.
Yeah.
I don't know what I have.
Oh, wow.
That does look like next to my bedside table, actually.
Actually, a lot of these I have for reference too. I mean, I've got every Raina Telgemeier.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'll just like show the title because honestly,
go for it. I think we'd love to see what you're.
And a lot of them are probably from a couple of years ago. They're not all updated, but they've got Sunny Side Up. Look at all the Post-its I have just for reference. And there's Wink. That was the book I mentioned before. Hey Kiddo is more for older kids, but it was wonderful. Yeah, I've got the new kid. This is my friend Mark Tutuli's book, The Big Break. It's so fun.
I love the cover.
Yeah, he's great. He's done amazing comic strips as well. Let's see, Be Prepared.
Oh yeah.
It's a friend of mine too, Nat and Nup. That was wonderful. Fly on the Wall. She's a really great author. Look at all these Post-its. I really loved her for reference. She did another one that might be in here too. I can't remember what it was called, but
isn't that Remy?
What's that?
Isn't that Remy?
Remy.
Yeah, she blurred my book.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, she's great. I loved her first one too. I think I did a blurb for her first book. Oh, Pie in the Sky. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Lily, your book reminded me of Pie in the Sky.
Oh,
in a great way.
Cooking thing again.
Yeah, no, I can't get enough of that. But Marty Pants, it's another friend of mine. Very fun, so funny. I've got a Victoria Jameson book. I actually really love this one, All Spare.
I liked that one too.
Yeah, this is, what is this? A Russian. This was a Russian author, Dasha. I can't even pronounce her last name, but it's really interesting. A little more darker, a little artsier.
Yeah, look
really
at that
cool.
art. Wow.
Yeah.
It almost has like a picture book feel to it.
Yeah, it does. It's beautiful. I'm trying to, I think it's all black and white. I read it so long ago, I can't quite remember. Zen Pencils, which is fun. Hope Larson. Another friend of mine, Norm Foodie. King of Kazoo. Oh my gosh, I'm touting all my friends. So many of them are cartoonists, and they've gone on to do graphic novels or illustrated novels. Eddie Pittman, Red's Planet.
Yeah, those are great.
Rip Haywire. Oh my gosh. I mean, I've got a whole closet full.
I can't imagine a better scenario, or my children would be very jealous to hear that you have an entire closet full of graphic novels. So that's amazing. Thanks for sharing those with us, guys.
You're welcome.
That's your question? I was just wondering, when you write your hybrid novels, how do you decide when you want to put illustration in? I mean, do you write all the text first and then put the illustration in and substitute it in, or is it sort of like a process that you're doing at the same time?
No, it's a great question. So what I do is I've done it all different ways, and I've kind of narrowed it down to one process now. So I just type out a manuscript, and what I do, so I don't interrupt the flow of my thoughts, is if I feel like there's like a slight pause in whatever it is I'm saying, or if I feel like this would be perfectly illustrated in a funny way, I just indicate. I just type it out. Like I'll just type out what I'm thinking, whether it's like, an image of a boy with things growing out of his head or whatever. I'll just type that out, and then eventually I do the rough art, the kind that I do all in pencil, and then I scan it in, then I plug it right into the manuscript. But while I'm writing, I want to be able to just keep typing out my ideas. And sometimes I'll go back and see, well, maybe I can insert an image in the middle of this paragraph here and break it up that way. And it's a lot of editing and re-editing and back and forth. But I'm curious about your process. I'm curious about how you work with the illustrator when you do it as well. Like, do you ever rough anything out, or do you have an image in mind, or do you leave it basically up to the artists?
No, I was very, very detailed about what I wanted on the page. So I described the page, I described how many panels, and sometimes I also do how I want the panels laid out. So I can show you.
Yeah. This is good.
This one in particular. So this one, I love how it came out. So
wow.
I actually made this tea towel. I sewed it up. I made the fabric. I had the fabric made from the image, and then I sewed it myself.
Oh my God.
You can see these are puzzle pieces. And so I said I wanted a full page spread, and I want it to be a puzzle. I want Cece, my character Cece, and then I described, she has the toque on and a chef outfit. And then for these images, I actually sent in reference photos because I wanted it to be like a Roboku, not just say KitchenAid, right? Or things like that. And then I describe what each of the different people are doing. And, but of course, Anne, who is my brilliant illustrator, still had to take all my words and all my detailed instructions and actually create the illustration, right? So a lot of kudos go to her for actually actualizing what I could see in my mind.
That's amazing. No wonder you have no time to read.
I know. You have other hobbies.
Wow.
That is very cool. We have had a lot of graphic novelists come through over the last few years, and it's always fascinating to me to ask about the process because I swear every single person has a different one. But I really found that super interesting. So thanks. That was really cool. Let's see, we've got a couple questions that came through the chat here. This is again from Aubrey. Thanks, Aubrey, for all the questions. She asked Lily, do you like to cook in real life?
I used to cook so much. So growing up, we never went out to dinner to a restaurant. My mom made all our meals. And so when I went to college, I was all of a sudden exposed to all these different foods at the university cafeteria. And I was just fascinated by it. And then when I graduated from college, I got my first apartment and I had to learn to cook. And at one point, so I started collecting cookbooks. So at one point, I think I probably had like 200 cookbooks or something. And I moved them from house to house, apartment to apartment. And then I finally thought, oh, I know what happened. I had kids. And that changed the entire, oh yeah, making dinners. You know, you're so busy and you make something fancy and then they just won't eat it. And so I think I gave up by that point. And then after that, when I moved, I was just like, I'm not taking these books with me anymore. But of course now I'm just so sad because I wish I kept them, right? But yeah, so now I still cook, but I cook very simply, and basically I just sort of throw things together and I use a recipe more like a guideline now. But what's been fun is my son has been cooking with me during this whole pandemic shutdown thing. And we signed up for a CSA, a community supported agriculture box that came. So every Friday, a box of beautiful vegetables would come to our door. And then we were like, okay, what are we gonna do with all these veggies? Yeah, so it was a little bit, we felt a little bit pressure there, but we tried all sorts of vegetables we wouldn't have tried otherwise. So yeah.
That kind of stresses me out about us getting a CSA box, as I'm like a menu planner and I'm like, I don't know if I could handle the anxiety of like,
it was very, yeah,
Google everything.
it was definitely, we had a lot of anxiety over it. But I just had my book launch on Tuesday and the video is still up until November 7th. But if you want to watch it, I actually make dumplings during the book launch.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
So if any of your viewers want to go, they can go, it's on crowdcast.io, and they can just look up, do a search for Lily LaMotte measuring up, and it should pop up.
Thanks. All right. Well, okay, so you mentioned you were doing some cooking during the quarantine. You both have mentioned quarantine and COVID. And so I guess my question would be, what have you both been doing to pass this time during COVID? Are you doing more work or less work? You mentioned you've written a second book. Do you think that it has helped your creative process or made it difficult?
For me, it actually it made it so that I had the time, right? All my other obligations disappeared. So I actually got the time to write my book. And it was, I was just literally heads down. I don't know that my life would have been that much different if there wasn't COVID. The one thing that did happen was I jumped on the sourdough train though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I got the sourdough, fed the sucker. You know, it was like, it's another thing with pressure and anxiety, right? So you have to feed this thing.
My husband did that. I think we sold the starter somewhere. I don't want to look at it.
Yeah, I know it's in the back of my fridge, in the very far back.
Mine's probably walked away at this point.
I had several neighbors that got into that, so I was able to benefit from that without actually having to have the smelly sourdough starter in my house.
My husband made actual sourdough pancakes out of, like, I guess some of the runoff.
Yeah, you have to take out every day. You're supposed to take some off, and then you feed it, and so you're like constantly have the sourdough thing you gotta do something with.
Yeah. All right, maybe we'll go back to talking about books and readers then. Let's see. We have, this is from Lisa. She says, what would be your advice be for kids who say they don't like to read? And then I'm going to expound on that question. So I'm in two questions. Her question being, what's your advice for kids who say they don't like to read? But knowing that we do have a lot of educators and teachers on here tonight joining us for this event, what would also be your advice for educators who are trying to inspire reluctant readers to read? Terri, you can go first.
Well, I'm just going to reiterate. I would completely go to the graphic novels. It's not just for kids who like to read or kids who are more visually oriented, I guess you could say, who like comics, etc., art. it's great for reluctant readers. It really, I think it draws them in completely. So I would say that would be my number one suggestion is getting them to read some age appropriate graphic novels. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't know. Take it, Lily.
I mean, I agree with you. I think graphic novels are fun. And I mean, basically research has shown that, you know, if a child isn't reading by like third grade, they just basically get more and more behind, because at that point, right, teachers are not teaching to read, they're teaching subjects, and you would need to have that skill set to learn the subject. And if you don't have the reading skill set, then it just becomes trying to learn the subject and trying to learn to read all at the same time, which can be really overwhelming. So anything we can do to get kids to read, no matter what it is, as long as it's interesting and engages them, is great. And then I was listening to a talk with Jeff Kinney, I think Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And he said that when he was a kid, he actually had a really hard time reading. And one of the things about the books that he loved with illustrations was like they were little islands for him. All he knew that if he was at an illustration, he could stop, read the text, and get to the next illustration and take another break. And that was literally how he went through an entire book, from illustration to illustration. And that got him reading and practicing the skill set of reading, right? And I mean, reading is just all about practice. The more you practice, the better you get, and the easier it gets. And the easier it gets, the more you want to read. Let me think. Well, someone else said that, another author, I was just, it might have been Varian Johnson, because I was just on a panel with him for the Tween Reads Festival. And I think he said that he was also another person who didn't really read when he was growing up either. The same sort of thing, where finally he found a book that really engaged him. And that is how, you know, that is how kids begin to think, oh, reading isn't just a chore.
I would also say,
oh,
go ahead.
Go for it. Well, I was gonna say, at the bookstore, that's you guys hit on our major points. Like, we do get a lot of parents who come in and say, how do I inspire my reluctant reader? And we always say, first of all, just let them read whatever appeals to them, right? Because you just want to make reading enjoyable. And even if it maybe wouldn't appeal to you, it would have to appeal to them. And then also just to let them keep trying. Like, you don't have to like the first book you read. You don't have to like every book you read. You can pick up a book, and if you don't like it, try something else, right? But then also the graphic novels, the emergence of graphic novels have, I just think, made such a huge difference for reluctant readers and for kids who do struggle to enjoy reading for whatever reasons. And especially for what you said, Lily, like getting to take that pause. So it's not just, a lot of kids, it's very overwhelming for them to open a book and just see pages of text. And they don't really believe in their ability. Sometimes I've noticed when I'm talking to them in the store, they don't really believe in their ability to be able to actually read the whole thing. And I just feel like graphic novels are this great gap between these, like, you know, earlier introductory readers and early chapter books, and getting to a point where they can read like a Harry Potter and have confidence in their ability to do so. Like, sometimes they just need something to teach them that, like, yes, you can do this, you can get through it. And that's a big piece, I think, of that reluctance. So that, I was just gonna say, that's the Andersons like standard reply to that question. What were you gonna say, Terri?
Oh, I was just gonna kind of jump on that a little bit, but sort of go back to what we were talking about with, I know you mentioned like parents and some librarians who are reluctant to have their kids read graphic novels. And we were talking about that a while back, but they're actually like great educators guides now for graphic novels that lead you into really fun activities. And a lot of teachers are using graphic novels for their curriculum as well. And they'll get kids to create their own graphic novels. Actually, I kind of have that in the book I'm writing now, in my series, where the kids have an assignment where they have to create their own comic book or graphic novel. It could be like, it's both fun and educational, and it's such a great combination. And I think that's also a way to really draw in reluctant readers, because it gets them to sort of, copy a graphic novel and create their own and get their imaginations rolling. So it's all good.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
So, yeah, totally. I know my imprint, Harper Alley, which is HarperCollins' new imprint for graphic novels. We have a teacher's guide for all the graphic novels that came out, during this.
Yeah, I've got one on my website actually, and I was just thinking I need. I created my own for Becoming Brianna that I thought was kind of fun that I'd like to throw up there as well.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're such good tools.
I'm writing this down for my website.
Yeah, I mean, the more resources that like, especially educators or parents can get by going to your guys' websites. Like I know, like I hear constantly from teachers and parents that they go and they use all those resources. So that's great. That's awesome. Let's see.
I was just gonna say, I totally understand how a child feels about learning to read, because I know, like when we try to learn a foreign language, and I've had that experience where like I wanted to learn French, right? So I took some classes, and then I wanted to read a real book, and so I got a French book from the library, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't get through this. It's like so now I'm just thinking, this idea just came to me. I need to go find a French graphic novel.
Oh,
to learn,
yours
right?
might end up being translated into French.
Oh, perfect. And I just got the news that my book is going to be translated to French.
Oh, that's so neat.
That's great. Yeah. You'll start getting all these translations of your books. You'll get these shipments coming in, and it's so cool. And then you can pick up new languages, or you can give them to someone down your street who actually speaks that language, so you don't have 10 of them sitting on your shelf.
Well, congratulations to you both. That's a really big deal to be getting your books translated into other languages. That's very cool. Let's see. We have a question this is from Lindsay. And she said, what authors inspired you both to write?
Oh, anyone?
I was going to say, well, when my kids were, I always loved reading, right? And I did try some point, I don't know, in high school to write something. And I think I wrote a paragraph of a story and then realized I didn't know how to write. Actually, I don't know how to write story and gave up. So it wasn't until my kids were little, I had my babies, and I started reading picture books to them. And I thought, oh my gosh, these are so much fun. I wish I could write something like that. But then, kids, it's just, I didn't have any time to actually write. So it wasn't until Harry Potter came out, and we just loved Harry Potter. Like each book would come out, I read it with my kids, and then in the next book the next book would come out, and we read the book before that, and then the new one, and then every year, and then finally I was just like, I have to try to write one, and that's how it started.
That's so cool. Harry Potter's cool. How about you, Terri?
God, our family did the same thing. Jumped on that Harry Potter train. So I was more inspired by cartoonists growing up. I mean, I did have some authors that I loved, but I was mainly really into reading comics and cartoons. I think I was one of those reluctant readers, and I kind of exploded later on. So my biggest influence growing up was Charles Schulz, who was nuts. And I used to, try and emulate his style and his writing and his drawing. I drew Snoopy and Woodstock all over everything and everybody. And later, as I got older and I knew I wanted to be a cartoonist, I was inspired by a lot of other types of cartoonists as well. So like Linda Barry and Bert Breathed. I don't know if anyone's familiar with them, but that was my huge influence, because before I became an author, I wanted to be a newspaper cartoonist. So, I've done some unusual steps in that regard. But now I'm inspired by everybody. I'm sorry?
Did you say Calvin and Hobbes is what I heard?
Actually, no, I was inspired. I was inspired by Calvin and Hobbes, but it was actually Burke Breathed who was a bigger influence for me. He did Bloom County.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah. I had all his books.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
So good.
Really odd. And Linda Berry was probably my biggest influence when I was a young adult. She did underground comics, and she actually inspired kind of a narrative style, which I picked up in my comic strip, because it was called the Pajama Diaries, and it was basically like a diary with a narrative box and dialogue. It was kind of a mixture of both. And so I think she kind of got under my skin that way, because she did something similar, although a lot wilder. But
when did you decide to become a cartoonist?
Well, I did cartooning when I was growing up, but it wasn't until college that I realized I was an illustration major, and I realized I was doing some of my assignments in a very cartoony fashion, more and more so. And I was doing them on the side. I did a comic strip for the school paper and for other publications on campus. And then it just kind of hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess this is what I should be doing. And then I pursued it from there. I got a job with American Greetings out of college, and I basically put cartoons onto cards, and did that for a long time. And then I kind of segued once I got my big break with my comic strip. That's when that took over, and my job in American Greetings kind of dwindled down until I think I was doing it like one day a week. And then they said, okay, Terri, bye-bye. So
Okay,
yeah.
well, we are actually almost out of time, believe it or not. We did get one more question that I'm going to ask you a final question, but I'm also giving you one more question that we got through the Q&A. And I'm letting you know ahead of time what it is, so that while you're answering my question, you can be brainstorming your answer. Because I always find this to be the hardest question in the entire world. And this is from Madeline. She says, what is your all-time favorite book? So be thinking about that. I know it's like trying to choose a favorite child. It is impossible, but be thinking about that while you answer my last question before we leave tonight, which is going to just be what's next for both of you. Like you both had mentioned working on other books. So let's start with you, Lily, because you had mentioned that you were writing another book. So what's coming up next for you?
Yeah, so my next book is a summer camp book, and it's gone through copy edit. It was really fun because I think I can say this, Anne, who illustrated Measuring Up, is also going to illustrate this next book. Great. And so I saw her character lineup, the sketches. It's just so fun to see these characters I've imagined in my head actually illustrated. And last time I heard they're working on the fonts, which I had never even considered, that the editor, the book designer, and my illustrator are like putting all this effort into fonts. So like they sent me some fonts examples, and then we had discussion about which font it should be in.
That's really cool. That's so
I know, that was so fun.
It really makes a big difference, but yeah.
What's that?
I was going to say the font makes such a big difference in the graphic novel. So, but you don't think about how much work probably goes into that.
Yeah, exactly. And I sold my debut picture book, and I can't say anymore because it hasn't been announced yet, but I'm super excited about that too.
Well, congratulations. That's very cool.
Thank you.
All right. And do you know your favorite book of all time?
Well, you know, I tend to think that there are eras of your life, right? And so you'll have different favorite books during different eras of your life. So I can say that at one point, my favorite book was Pride and Prejudice, because who doesn't love a wonderful?
Perfect.
And then, of course, Harry Potter, and now there's just so many wonderful books. Like, how can you choose one?
I can't. All right, Terri, how about you? What's next, and what is your favorite book of all time?
So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm writing the 5th book in my series, and I'm about to start the final art, so that'll be fun. And I have to go back to your pandemic question because this has taken a toll on my writing majorly this year. So fortunately and unfortunately, it all came together thankfully in the end. But I struggled. I had a hard time. Also, it's about a boy this time. So that was part of the struggle. I'm so used to writing for girls that I had to get into the boy mindset. So that was part of the issue. And luckily I feel like I really nailed it. So,
That's really cool.
So all's well. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. I'm also trying my hand at some picture books, but I haven't, I'm still in the process of showing them to my agents, so I don't know where it's going. And just some other projects. I have an idea for another kind of graphic novel. And that's what the pandemic afforded me. I did have more time. Also, I retired my comic strip this year, so that gave me no more daily deadlines. So it freed me up for that. So a lot of things I'm juggling at once right now, but I like that. And as far as my all-time favorite book,
it's the hardest question on earth.
It really is, and I agree. I think it really depends on different aspects of your life. Like, I love Harry Potter as well. That's one of my favorites. That kind of brings out the kid in me. I love all these graphic novels. Growing up, I think one of my all-time favorite books was A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I think that was the one book that really did it for me. That was the one that Kara, you were mentioning, like that, just kind of sucks you in.
Someone mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then I want to say that one of my all-time favorite grown-up books, but can also be a kid book, was Life of Pi. I love that.
Oh yeah. That was a great book. Not such a great movie. Great book.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, I think we are about to close here. I was going to say really quick, just pointing out, you guys both mentioned that you did the Harry Potter thing where, like, you would read the new one as it came out, read the one from before. And my children have an age range, and I will say that my youngest, I keep telling him, and my oldest keep telling him as well, he's just so lucky because he'll never know the pain that we all went through way 6 and 7, which was just such a huge gap. And it was so frustrating. And these kids are just so lucky because they can just binge the whole series at once. But yes, Harry Potter's fantastic for that. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here tonight. Again, we just really appreciate you guys stopping in to have these conversations with us. And then, of course, again, I just cannot stress enough how much we appreciate those of you who are attending and those of you who continue to support us while we are trying really hard. We used to do 400 live events a year across we have multiple locations. And so, we've tried really hard to launch this virtual landscape, and it's really difficult. It's just not the same. And, we just really appreciate everyone who's sticking with us and continuing to give it a shot with us, and who continues to support us through this really difficult time. So shop local, shop early. I can't say it enough. And thank you all so much for being here, and stay safe out there. I hope wherever you guys are tuning in from, you just are safe and happy. All right. We'll see you again soon. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's very fun.